30 people. Champagne glasses frozen in the air. Complete silence. And a decorated Navy SEAL, my sister's fiancé, was standing at full attention saluting me. Not a general. Not a senator. Me. The brother she had spent 15 years calling a disappointment, a failure, a waste of potential. And in that moment, every cruel word she ever said to me was about to be buried by a single gesture she never saw coming. But to understand why he saluted me, you need to know what I buried so deep that even my own family never knew it existed. My sister called me a failure, until her Navy SEAL fiancé saluted me. Welcome back, my beautiful family and friends. If you're hooked in and you're ready to enjoy this story, click subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Because tomorrow, I will be giving you another story just as interesting as this one. And you don't want to miss it. Now let us begin. I want you to picture the most uncomfortable dinner table you've ever sat at. Now multiply that by 15 years of unspoken resentment, a mother who means well but says the wrong thing every single time, and a sister who has made an Olympic sport out of comparing herself to me, and winning. That's every holiday at the Caldwell house. My name is Daniel. Daniel Caldwell. And for most of my adult life, I have been the family's quiet embarrassment, the one they talk around at reunions, the one whose career choices get met with tight smiles and subject changes. My sister Vanessa was the star. Has always been the star. She'll be the first to tell you that, and she will tell you unprompted in detail. Valedictorian. Full scholarship to Georgetown. Corporate attorney by 27. Perfectly highlighted hair, perfectly pressed blazer, perfectly curated life. The kind of woman who sends a calendar invite for a phone call. And me. I dropped out of college after one semester. Not because I was lazy, though Vanessa made sure everyone believed that version of events. I dropped out because our father had a stroke the October of my freshman year, and somebody had to come home. Somebody had to handle the medical bills, drive him to therapy 3 times a week, learn how to cook because Mom's hands had started shaking from the stress of it all. Vanessa was in D.C. by then. She had opportunities, she said. She couldn't just leave. So I did. I came home to rural Millhaven, Tennessee, and I quietly dismantled whatever future I'd been building for myself, and I handed those pieces to my family without a word. Nobody asked me to. That's the thing about sacrifice that no one tells you. The most real ones are the ones you make when no one's watching and no one will ever know. Dad recovered. Slowly, incompletely, but enough. He walks with a cane now, laughs at bad TV, and calls me every Sunday morning at 7 sharp. Those calls are the best part of my week. But somewhere in those years I spent home, managing Dad's care, working a job at the county water authority that paid the bills but inspired exactly no one. I became the disappointment. It didn't happen in one moment. It happened the way erosion happens. Slowly. Steadily. One comment at a time. Daniel, are you still at that water place? Daniel, have you thought about going back to school? There are programs for adults, you know. Daniel, Vanessa just made junior partner. Isn't that wonderful? Yes. It was wonderful. And I meant that. I genuinely did. But no one ever asked me if I was wonderful. No one ever looked at the dark circles under my eyes from working doubles so Dad's physical therapist didn't get canceled, or at the calluses on my hands from fixing the gutters so Mom didn't have to worry about one more thing. No one ever looked at any of that and thought to call it strength. They called it settling. Vanessa called it giving up. I remember the last time she said it to my face. Thanksgiving, 3 years ago. She'd had one too many glasses of wine, which is when the real Vanessa surfaces, the one who doesn't bother filtering herself behind that Georgetown polish. You had potential, Daniel. You really did. It's just sad, you know? Watching someone waste it. She said it like she was sad for me. Like I was a stray dog she'd seen through a car window. I didn't say anything back. I never do. I just refilled my glass of sweet tea and asked Mom if she needed help with the dishes. But I felt it. Lord, I felt it. Like a nail being pressed slowly into the center of my chest. That was 3 years ago. Tonight is her engagement party. She's marrying someone named Garrett Cole. I don't know much about him. Vanessa hasn't exactly gone out of her way to introduce us. What I do know is that he's military, Navy, she'd said vaguely, and that she met him at some charity gala in Washington 8 months ago, and that she's been using words like distinguished and decorated whenever his name comes up. I'd driven 3 hours to be here. I'd bought a new shirt, not because I wanted to impress anyone, but because Mom had asked me to please just try Daniel, and I was standing now in the parking lot of a rented venue in Nashville, smoothing the front of that shirt and giving myself the kind of pep talk that only unloved siblings understand. You are not here for her approval. You are here for Mom. You smile, you eat the appetizers, you drive home. Simple. Clean. In and out. I pushed open the door. The room was golden cream, full of Vanessa's people. Colleagues, law school friends, women who laughed too loudly and men who shook hands too firmly. Mom found me almost instantly, pulling me into a hug that smelled like her lavender perfume and held on just a beat longer than usual. The way she does when she's relieved I actually showed up. You look handsome, she whispered. You're biased, I said. She laughed, and for a moment it was okay. Then Vanessa materialized from across the room like a weather system. Cream dress, champagne flute, smile that didn't quite reach her eyes when she looked at me. Daniel. She air-kissed my cheek. You made it. I said I would. You say a lot of things. She said it softly, like a joke, but we both knew it wasn't. Then she turned, and something shifted in her entire posture. Spine straightening, smile becoming real, as she looked past my shoulder. There he is, she said. Come meet Garrett. I turned. And that's when I saw him for the first time. He was tall. Broad-shouldered in the way that doesn't come from a gym but from something harder. From weather and water and years of carrying things that would break most men. He was in civilian clothes, dark slacks and a simple button-down, but he wore them the way military men always wear civilian clothes, like a costume, like his body hasn't quite forgotten how to be at ease. He was scanning the room when his eyes found mine. And something happened in his expression that I didn't understand yet. He went very still. Have you ever had someone look at you like they already knew your whole story, before you'd said a single word? Drop a comment and tell me. Because that look Garrett gave me in that moment, it changed everything that came after. Vanessa slipped her hand into Garrett's arm and steered him toward me with that hostess smile she wears like armor. Garrett, this is my brother Daniel. He reached out to shake my hand. His grip was firm but not performative. The handshake of a man who has nothing to prove. Daniel Caldwell, he said. Not a question. That's me. Something moved behind his eyes. He studied my face for a moment. 2 seconds, maybe 3, in a way that made the noise of the party feel very far away. Then he did it. He stepped back, came to full attention, and saluted me. Clean, crisp, deliberate. The room didn't go quiet all at once. It rippled like a stone dropped in still water. One conversation stopped, then another, until 30 people were standing with champagne glasses suspended halfway to their mouths, staring. Vanessa's smile collapsed. Garrett, what are you? Staff Sergeant Daniel Caldwell, Garrett said, his voice carrying across the room like it was built to carry across open water. 3 tours. Purple Heart. You pulled 2 of my men out of a burning vehicle in Kandahar. The silence was total now. I felt heat crawl up the back of my neck. You don't have to. Yes, I do, he said. I absolutely do. Vanessa was looking at me like she was seeing a stranger wearing her brother's face. What is he talking about? I didn't answer right away. I looked at Garrett, and in his eyes I saw something I hadn't seen directed at me in a very long time. Respect. I served, I said quietly. Before I came home. Vanessa pulled Garrett aside within minutes. I watched her whisper arguing with him near the bar, her gestures sharp and controlled the way they get when she's angry but can't afford to look angry. I got myself a drink and found a quiet corner. My chest felt strange. Not the good kind of strange. I hadn't talked about my service in years. Not because I was ashamed, but because it belonged to a part of me I'd carefully folded away, like a letter you keep but stop reading. Coming home to care for Dad had meant leaving the army early. A medical discharge after the incident in Kandahar. Shrapnel in my left shoulder that the doctors fixed well enough but the army called a liability. I'd come home, traded my uniform for a county job, and never mentioned it. What was the point? It wouldn't change how Vanessa looked at me. It wouldn't undo 15 years of her quiet contempt. And something in me, some stubborn, wounded place, had refused to use it as a defense. I didn't want to be respected because of what I'd done in a desert on the other side of the world. I wanted to be seen for who I was standing right in front of them. Apparently that had been too much to ask. Mom found me in the corner. Her eyes were red at the edges. Daniel. Her voice broke on just that one word. Mom, don't. You never told me. About the medal. About Kandahar. She pressed her hand to her mouth. Why didn't you tell me? Because it wasn't the point, I said. I came home because I wanted to. Because you needed me. That was enough. She hugged me then, not the greeting hug from earlier but something fiercer, something that shook slightly. I held her and looked over her shoulder at Vanessa, who had separated from Garrett and was standing alone, arms crossed, staring at the floor. For the first time in 15 years, my sister looked uncertain. The party thinned out after 9. I was looking for my keys, ready to make the quiet exit I'd planned, when Garrett fell into step beside me. You leaving? Long drive, I said. Have one drink with me first. It wasn't quite a request. I looked at him sideways. He had the particular patience of someone who has spent years waiting in places far more uncomfortable than this. One drink, I said. We sat at the far end of the bar. He ordered bourbon, neat. I ordered the same. How'd you know who I was? I asked. The after-action report from Kandahar. Your name's been in my head for 9 years. He turned his glass slowly on the bar. 2 of those men you pulled out, Rodriguez and Hatch, they're still serving. Rodriguez has 3 kids now. Hatch coaches Little League on weekends. He paused. You gave them that. I didn't know what to do with that, so I said nothing. Vanessa never mentioned you served, he said. It wasn't an accusation. Just an observation with weight behind it. Vanessa doesn't know most of what I've done, I said. That's not her fault. I never told her. Why not? I turned my glass. Would it have mattered? He was quiet for a moment. I think it would have mattered to her more than you know, he finally said. She talks about you. That surprised me. Does she? Not always kindly, he admitted. But often. There's something there that she hasn't figured out how to say yet. He looked at me. Some people love loudly. Some people love like they're ashamed of it. I stared at my bourbon. What kind of love had I been offering all these years? And what kind had I been waiting for? We talked for 2 hours. Garrett told me about his own brother. Younger, troubled, someone Garrett had spent years trying to fix before learning the difference between saving someone and carrying them. He spoke about it plainly, the way veterans speak about hard things, without decoration, without self-pity. I told him about Dad's stroke, about coming home, about the water authority job that I'd actually grown to care about clean water access in rural counties, about infrastructure that nobody thinks about until it fails. I told him about the grant proposal I'd written last year that had brought $500,000 to Millhaven. Nobody in my family knew about that either. Why do you keep all of this to yourself? He asked. Because nobody asked, I said simply. He nodded slowly. I need to tell you something about Vanessa. He set down his glass. She grew up believing that success was armor. That if she became impressive enough, visible enough, nothing could hurt her. He paused. I think watching you come home and be quiet about it, be okay with a smaller life, I think it scared her. Because she couldn't understand it. What she couldn't understand she called weakness. I absorbed that. She isn't a bad person, I said. Because she isn't. She never has been. No, Garrett agreed. She's a person who's been wrong about something important for a very long time. From across the now empty room, I saw Vanessa standing near the doorway in her coat, watching us. She looked younger somehow. Like the Georgetown polish had been rinsed off by the evening. She looked like my sister. She walked over slowly, sat on the barstool on the other side of me, not next to Garrett but next to me, which felt deliberate. For a while, nobody said anything. Then, "You have a Purple Heart." "Yeah." "And you never," she stopped. Started again. "Daniel, why didn't you ever tell me? Would it have changed anything?" She flinched. "I don't know." Her voice was smaller than I'd ever heard it. "Maybe. I don't know." She looked down at her hands, those perfectly manicured hands. "I called you a failure. You called me a lot of things." "I know." She swallowed. "I think I was angry at you for being able to leave everything behind and just give. I couldn't do that. I couldn't have done what you did for Mom and Dad. And instead of admitting that, I told myself you were less than me." She finally looked at me. Her eyes were wet. "That was easier than the truth." "What's the truth?" I asked. "That you were always the stronger one," she whispered. I looked at my glass. Looked at my sister. I thought about 15 years of tight smiles and subject changes and her voice at Thanksgiving saying it's just sad, you know. I thought about how much I had needed, just once, for someone who shared my blood to look at me and say, "I see you." "I forgive you," I said. She blinked. Just like that. "I've been carrying it a long time," I said. "I'm tired." She laughed, this short, wet, broken laugh, and then she put her head on my shoulder. First time she'd done that since we were children. Garrett watched us. He smiled into his bourbon. It was almost 11 when it unraveled. One of Vanessa's law colleagues, a man named Preston who had the energy of someone who'd never been told no, had been working his way through the open bar all night. He slid up beside us, loud and loose, and decided to be charming. "So you're the brother," Preston said, pointing at me. "The one who's a water guy." He made it sound like something you'd scrape off your shoe. "That's right," I said. "Vanessa said you never went to college." He laughed, looking around for an audience. "Must be wild, showing up to her engagement party. What do you even talk about with these people?" I felt Vanessa go rigid beside me. "Preston," she started. "I'm just saying, there's got to be a little imposter syndrome, right? Big sister's a partner at Whitmore & Cole, Fiancé's a war hero, and you're—" "Preston, stop talking." Vanessa's voice came out sharp enough to cut glass. He blinked. "I'm just—" I said stop. She stood up. "My brother pulled wounded soldiers out of a burning vehicle while people like you were arguing about billing rates. You don't get to be in the same sentence as him. Excuse yourself." Preston opened his mouth, closed it, slunk away. The silence that followed was different from the earlier one. It was warm. But I'd already stood up. "I'm going to head out," I said. The evening had given me more than I'd come for, and I felt suddenly full of feeling in a way that needed quiet to settle. "Daniel." "It's okay, V." First time I'd used her childhood nickname in years. The look on her face almost broke me. "It's okay. Tonight it was a lot. Good lot. I just need some air." I got my jacket. Pushed out into the Nashville night. The parking lot was cool and sharp with the smell of coming rain. I sat on the hood of my truck and looked up at the sky, the particular dark of a city sky, too lit up to show many stars. I thought about Rodriguez with his 3 kids. About Hatch coaching Little League. About Dad calling me at 7 on Sunday mornings. About my sister's head on my shoulder. About how long I had been waiting to be seen, and how, tonight, I finally had been. Not because I'd performed anything, not because I defended myself or argued or proved a point, but simply because the truth had a way of surfacing eventually. No matter how deep you bury it. My phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't have saved. "This is Garrett. Vanessa wants to call you. She won't do it unless I tell you first. She's scared you'll let it go to voicemail." I stared at the message for a long moment. There was a part of me, the part that had been walking wounded for 15 years, that wanted to pocket the phone and drive home. To let her sit with the discomfort a little longer. To protect myself the way I'd always protected myself. But Garrett's words were still in my ear. Some people love like they're ashamed of it. Maybe I had too. Maybe I'd spent so long expecting rejection that I'd stopped leaving the door open. I typed back, "Tell her to call." 20 seconds later, my phone rang. "Hey," Vanessa said. "Hey." She exhaled. "I'm standing in the parking lot on the other side of the building. I didn't know you were outside too." I laughed despite myself. "Of course you are." A pause. The sound of distant traffic. The same Nashville sky above us both. "I've been thinking," she said, "about Thanksgiving 3 years ago." "Vanessa." "Let me finish." Her voice steadied. "I said something unforgivable. And I've told myself 100 times that you were fine, that you didn't care, that you were too easygoing to let it land. But I knew. I knew it landed." She paused. "I knew because I said it to make it land." The honesty of that hit me somewhere deep. "Yeah," I said quietly. "It landed. I'm sorry, Daniel." No qualifications. No but attached to the end of it. Just the plain, unguarded thing. "I am so sorry." I looked up at the sky. Breathed in the cold air. "I came home because I chose to," I said. "Not because I failed. I need you to understand that. I had a choice and I chose family. That's not weakness." "I know that now." "Do you?" "Yes." Firm, certain. "I know that now." We stood in silence for a moment. Two siblings on opposite sides of a building, sharing the same sky. It felt oddly like the closest we'd been in years. When was the last time someone in your family truly saw you? Not your achievements. Not your failures. Just you. Drop a comment. I think this story will hit differently when you answer that. "Come to Millhaven sometime," I said. "Have Sunday breakfast with me and Dad. He'd like that. He'd like that. He asks about you every week, V. Every single week." She made a sound that was almost a laugh and almost something else. "Okay," she said softly. "Okay. Sunday breakfast. Bring Garrett. I like him." "Yeah." And I could hear the smile in her voice. Real, unfiltered. The smile I remembered from when we were kids before everything got complicated. "He likes you too. Trust me, that man does not salute people, Daniel. Not like that." I slid off the hood of my truck. Looked up one last time at that city sky. Too bright for stars, but still somehow vast. "Good night, Vanessa." "Good night, Daniel." I drove home through the Tennessee dark with all 3 windows cracked, the cold air moving through the cab, and something in my chest that had been clenched for 15 years slowly, carefully, beginning to open. 6 days later, she showed up at my door at 8 on a Sunday morning with a grocery bag full of everything for biscuits and gravy and Garrett in tow carrying a bag of good coffee. Dad shook Garrett's hand for 30 seconds and then said, "The boy's got a grip. I like him." We ate at the kitchen table where I'd done homework as a kid, where Dad had taught me to play chess, where Mom still left a cross-stitched placemat at every seat even when it was just her and Dad eating alone. Vanessa looked around at the house, at the repaired gutters, the new water heater, the chair Dad needed positioned just right near the window, and I watched her seeing it. Really seeing it. All the quiet years of care built into the walls. She reached over and put her hand over mine. Didn't say anything. Didn't need to. Some people love loudly. Some people love like they're ashamed of it. And some people, if they're given one honest, unguarded moment, learn to love better. If this story moved you, share it with a sibling, a friend, someone who's been quietly carrying more than anyone knows. And if that person is you, I hope today is the day someone finally sees you. Drop a comment and tell me, what would it mean to you to be truly seen?